Hey everyone, I made a display on my refrigerator today. I just thought, why not, right? Well, this is going to be a shorter video than the one I did earlier. For some of you that don't want to sit through a 20-minute video, I thought I'd do a shorter one too. Okay, this is still about the story of Moses. And I don't have a picture of Moses as a baby, but he was a baby and his mama put him in a basket and sent him down the Nile River. And when she did that, the Pharaoh's daughter had found him and drew him out of the water. And when she did, she needed someone to take care of him. So his sister Miriam had suggested their mom take care of him, so she did. And Jochebed got to take care of her own son until he was big enough to be in the palace. And when he got to be in the palace, he was raised there by the princess, and he lived a good life there. And then one day, when he was out walking around the courtyard, he saw these Hebrews that were working. They were working hard, building stones and bricks and building things for the Pharaoh. And this one here, soldier here, he was being really mean to this Hebrew here. He was hitting him, and he was really being mean. And Moses was not happy. He was not happy about that at all. Moses said, "Stop. You shouldn't hurt anybody like that." And he actually got in a fight with the man, which wasn't good. And he fought with him. He was angry, and he killed him. So Moses was scared, and he left Pharaoh's castle, his house. He left his palace, not a castle. But he left it, and when he did, he had nowhere to go. And he went out into the field, and he became a shepherd. And he had friends, and he got married, and his family. And he really enjoyed being a shepherd. He was happy. He took care of the sheep. He had goats. He was very happy. And then one day, when he was out with the sheep, he saw a bush that was burning. And he thought, I gotta get closer to this bush because it's burning, but the leaves aren't burning up. It's just burning, and I don't understand why it's burning. The leaves are not burning up. So he got closer to the bush, and he's looking at it, and he's looking at it, and God says, "Moses." And Moses is like, "Who just called me?" He said, "I am the God of Abraham, and I want to talk to you. I have heard my people in Egypt, their cries and their prayers for deliverance. I don't want them to be slaves anymore. I want you to take them out of Egypt." And Moses is like, I can't talk very well, Lord. I don't do real good at talking. I don't know if I can do this. He said, "Moses, take your shoes off. You're on holy ground." Anywhere the Lord is holy ground, isn't it? And Moses took his shoes off, and he listened to the Lord. And he said, "You can do this, because I will go with you." And Moses objected. He said, "I can't do this." And he said, "Take your brother Aaron with you. He will speak for you." Let's take Moses off here. He said, "Aaron will speak for you, and you do everything else. Go talk to the Pharaoh and tell him to let my people go." And Pharaoh said, "No, I'm not letting them go. They're my slaves. They do all my work for me." So God told Moses, lay his staff down and let it become a snake. Well, the Pharaoh had wizards that did the same thing. And so he wasn't intimidated at all. He said, "No, I'm not letting them go." So God told Moses that he would take care of it. And he sent plagues. He sent frogs jump all over the palace and all the courtyards, in their soup, in their bathtubs. He sent big locusts, like big, huge mosquito-type creatures. They're stinging people, leave big sores all over their faces and their bodies. He sent grasshoppers that were hungry, ate all their crops, all their food. He sent wild animals to kill their cattle, like lions come and eat their goats and their cows and stuff. He sent lots of bad things like that because Pharaoh wouldn't listen. And then the last thing he did was he said for all the newborn Egyptian babies to be killed. Just like when Moses was a baby, Pharaoh wanted him to be killed. He was one of the Hebrew babies that was supposed to be killed, but his mama kept him safe, and he ended up being raised in the palace. So Moses and Aaron went back again and talked to Pharaoh after all these bad things happened. He says, fine, go, get out of here, take your people and leave. I'm done with you. So Moses did. He told the people, it's okay, pack up your stuff, let's go. We're going on a long trip. God's taking us to the promised land. The land of milk and honey that he promised us he would take us to. So everybody packed up their donkeys, got their stuff together, and they headed out. Well, they were walking, they got to a body of water. They couldn't go no further. They couldn't walk on the water. Only Jesus can do that, right? And Peter, when he called him out on the water. But here the people said, we can't go anywhere. And Pharaoh had changed his mind. He decided that he was going to come after them and bring them back. And they could hear the horses and the chariots, and they were scared. And Moses called out to God, and he prayed. And God said, Moses, stretch out your staff above the water. And he did. And the water parted up, opened up. And they could walk through on dry land. Wonder what the fish were thinking in there. Because the water just opened up like that. Pretty crazy, huh? But God can do anything. So they got all the way to the other side. And then Moses put his staff down and the water closed again. So Pharaoh's people couldn't get to them. They were stuck in the water. So they made camp. And they were happy on the way to the promised land. And then they got a little grumpy. Because they were hungry. So they got a little bit grumpy. And they complained to Moses. You brought us all the way out of Egypt and we don't even have any food. We're hungry. So Moses talked to God again. And God sent manna from heaven. Which is like the little wafers that you eat on the fifth Sunday when we do communion. It was kind of like that. So he sent them food so they had food to eat. And they were there and they traveled in there for a long, long time. And the people were kind of happy. They were glad to be out of Egypt. They weren't slaves anymore. But they wanted to be in their town, in the city that God was sending them to. And they weren't there yet, but they weren't always listening to him either. It's very important to listen to what God wants us to do. And sometimes it's hard to know what is the right thing to do. That's why prayer is really, really important and really powerful. Now Moses led the children of Israel through the wilderness, and they got to Mount Sinai. God protected them, gave them water, gave them food to eat. He kept them safe. And then he set Moses up on top of the mountain to write the 10 Commandments, which are the rules to guide us how to live our life and make good choices and be pleasing to God. And while he was up there, the people got sad again, and they were thinking that Moses was never coming down, and they decided to start worshiping idols again instead of God. Idols don't answer prayers. They don't even hear the prayers. They're just pieces of statue or furniture. They hear nothing, right? So Moses was not happy. God was not happy. Moses came down from writing the 10 Commandments. He has them there in his hands there. And he threw them down. He was so angry. Because they weren't waiting for him. They weren't listening to God. Eventually, God delivered the Israelites into the promised land and he blessed them. But not through Moses. Through Joshua and Caleb. So they were in the wilderness for 40 years. If they would just listen to God the first time, they'd have got there sooner. But see, didn't I tell you Moses has a really amazing timeline, the storyline of his life? And he always listened to what God had to say. Even if he didn't like it, he still did. Okay, I love you guys, and I don't know when we'll be able to be back in the classroom again, but I will see you soon. Take care, and God bless.